The Detroit Pistons close out the Golden State Warriors in one of my favorite games of the year. We got new trade rumors to talk about, and Daniss Jenkins rejecting a contract offer. We'll talk about it all. Today's episode, Locked On Pistons Podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years, coming up on 5 years soon for the Locked On Network. Been a credential media member over the last 3 years, and I appreciate all of you guys who help make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Later on, we got some new trade rumors, including the Detroit Pistons from Mark Stein. We'll talk about that a little bit later and the names that are involved. Also, in that Mark Stein article, we also heard that Daniss Jenkins rejected a contract offer from the Detroit Pistons. What does this mean? We'll break it all down. It actually is an interesting situation. But we're going to start off with the game that the Pistons just played last night. A very late game. I can't wait till they are done with the rest and road trip. I can't stand the Pistons rest and road trip games. I hate being up as late as I gotta be. But they defeated the Golden State Warriors 131-124. The Warriors did make this a very, very close game at the end, but throughout quarters 1 through 3, the Pistons were in firm control. I felt the entirety. They were up by 15 plus points for a very long stretch of this game. Steph Curry did end up getting hurt and not returning later on in this game. I believe he missed the entire fourth quarter. Might have been the third quarter. No, he played in the third quarter. He didn't return at all in the fourth quarter. But the Pistons were still able to get this win. They were controlling the game with Steph on the floor nonetheless. So I thought this was a very, very fun game. And the reason why I had so much fun watching this game and why I personally feel like it was one of the more entertaining games for me to watch all year is because, now look, there was not a lot of defense played as a team by both sides. I mean, Pistons scored 131, the Warriors scored 124. But watching this game on national television against a team like the Warriors, against Steph Curry, the Pistons' core three guys shine through in their own specific way that only they can shine through. And I thought that was one of the reasons, that's one of the reasons why I had so much fun watching. Like Cade Cunningham, 29 points, 11 assists. He was 11 of 19 from the floor, so he was very efficient in this game. He had 29 points and 67 true shooting. He had 11 assists to just 3 turnovers. Throughout the game, I thought he was picking his spots absolutely beautifully. He was surgical with how he was dissecting the Warriors' defense. The Warriors were trying to, which this is something we've talked about a lot on the podcast really last week of games, and that is teams starting to trap Cade more. And we talked about on the podcast that the Pistons were shredding that earlier in the year, and it was really puzzling to see Cade turn the ball over and struggle against this, and the team overall struggle against it over the last few games against teams all of a sudden starting to trap him again. And the Warriors were doing that in this game, and Cade was rightfully getting the ball out of his hands quick, and the Pistons obliterated it, just like they should have, just like they've been doing for the majority of the year. Again, it was a little puzzling to see them struggling with it the last few games against Western Conference teams, but they destroyed it in this game. Cade did a great job of picking his spots, getting the ball out of his hands when they did trap him, when they didn't, getting to the spot he wanted to, and scoring the basketball, not turn the ball over a ton, and playing some really good defense as well. So you saw that offensive maestro come through in Cade, and him just be that focal point of the offense, that leader on the offense, despite the coverages that are being thrown at him. So he was spectacular. Then you have Jalen Duren, who was 21 points, 13 rebounds, and 7 of 14 shooting, dominating the paint, whether it was on assisted field goals or unassisted field goals. He's finishing off everything he gets dumped down to on the offensive end of the floor. But then also in the short roll situations, there's a few times where they tag down on his short roll and Ausar's cutting down the backside for a potential maybe lob, but Draymond Green's doing a good job of trying to get to that, or someone else is doing a really great job on the weak side trying to get there at the last second, kind of make it a tough pass. And Duren is just able to go over the tagging defender, power through the tagging defender, convert looks at the rim. He's able to drive to the basket and really put pressure on the Warriors in a way that they can't really sustain because they don't have a lot of size and they don't have a lot of guys that can really match up with Jalen Duren when he's aggressive as a driver. And Draymond talked about this after the game and said, yeah, he's really utilizing his body now this year. And you saw that a lot on the offensive end of the floor for Jalen Duren. He was fantastic in this game. And again, like I said, on assisted and unassisted field goals. He was extremely aggressive, and he was making his presence known against a Golden State Warriors team that just doesn't have a size answer for him. I love seeing that for him, so he found a way to impact that way. So you got Cade impacting his own way, playing tremendous. You got Jalen Duren impacting his own way, playing tremendous. And then you got Ausar Thompson, who absolutely had Steph Curry in hell all night. He had 6 steals in this game. His defense was off the charts in this game. I thought he played absolutely fantastic. You had the ESPN broadcast just giving him a ton of credit for what he was defensively. I saw the NBA community talking about his defense all day. He was fantastic defensively. And the way he started off this game, and really throughout the game, he had a few potential assists that he didn't end up getting. But his passing to start this game and in the first half was incredible. He had a behind-the-back pass to Jalen Duren. He had a few nice short roll kick out for 3 attempts. He had a few drives to the basket in transition that ended up creating open threes that weren't made, but still were able to generate offense. There was a point in this game where the Warriors tried going to a zone defense, and like I've talked about in the podcast a lot, because Ausar is not a shooter does not mean he's not a zone buster. He is a zone buster because he get to the open spaces of the floor. And there were a few possessions where he got to the open space of the floor as the ball handler, and maybe he didn't get the assist, but he got the hockey assist from collapsing the defense, kicking out to the right wing, and then one more pass to the corner. Now you got an open 3 for Duncan Robinson. And they were doing a tremendous job in the first half of moving the ball against that zone defense, and he was a big part of that. So his passing, I thought, was incredible. His defense was incredible. He didn't have a very efficient scoring half in the second half of this game, and maybe in the future episode, maybe next episode, we'll talk about why that was. I think there's a lot of times where he's driving to the basket and he's thinking pass before scoring, and by the time he then gets to the next read of scoring, that opening window of an easy finish is not there. I'd like him to just be more like, I would like him to be more confident or I can't think of the word I'm trying to get to here. I'd like him to just want to score and think score in certain situations quickly, because he would be able to score easier with a lot of his buckets around the rim. Because by the time he gets off of his passing read, now there's help. He's pump faking, and now it's a tougher finish. I feel like that would really help him. But nonetheless, despite all of that, they won his minutes. He was fantastic. And seeing all 3 of those guys find a way in their own way to really shine and put their stamp on the game, I thought it was really, really fun to watch. And obviously, Daniss Jenkins played a really good game. He was 12 points and 4 assists. I thought Tobias really gave it his all on the glass. It's something he's been struggling with, and he was fighting on the glass. He had 8 rebounds. Isaiah Stewart was incredible, especially in the first half. I thought he was fantastic in the first half. So, overall, good team win. But I thought the 3 core members of the group really put their fingerprints all over this game. And it was super fun to see it happen because they all did it in their unique way and showed why they are special to this core and why they are special to this team build in their own way, each one of them. And I just enjoyed watching the game so much. And being able to close out the Warriors when they make this comeback and they're making this run to continually answer the run, answer, and close the game out is just another feather in the Pistons' cap of, hey, we can win close games. If you want to make it close, we don't panic. We're able to close it out. Even if we let go of the rope a little bit, we can still close the game out. So I thought it was a really good win from the Detroit Pistons. They ended up 2-1 on the road trip, and despite some of my criticisms about how they played in the first 2 games of the road trip, they still ended up walking away 2-1. So good situation. They're going to head back home now. Let me know what you guys thought about this Pistons game against the Golden State Warriors in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil. Coming up, we got a new report, new article from Mark Stein where he talks about the Pistons being interested in Michael Porter Jr. and potentially Miles Bridges. We'll talk about it coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that's the part that hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast, without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Love seeing all in prices up front, no surprise fees at checkout with Game Time. You're able to see the view from the seat before buying the tickets, which makes the decision super easy. Great last minute options as well, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And if you haven't already, check out our Everydayer Discord. If you sign up by February 5th, which is when the NBA trade deadline officially comes through, and you use the code DEADLINE, you will get your first month free. You can use the Everydayer Club to be a part of our Discord server, where you'll be a part of the Locked On Pistons Discord server, talk with the Locked On Pistons community, plus national chats where you can hang out with fans from across the league. And you also will get ad-free listens of Locked On Pistons. No ads, just a clean listen all throughout. If you want to join that, you want to join the Everydayer Club, tap the link in the show notes below to learn more. Now, today I'm recording this on Saturday. This will be posted on Saturday. This morning, we got a new article from Mark Stein. And I know there's a lot of people who have been, there's a lot of especially if you're on Twitter, which I know not everyone is. But if you're on Twitter and that's where you get a lot of your trade news and trade deadline stuff, whatever, or just NBA news in general, there has been a lot of people disguising themselves as reporters or lying about certain rumors. You may not know who to trust, whatever. Mark Stein is 100% one of the people you very much should trust and read. He has a great Substack where he puts all his info in. He used to work for ESPN. He knows what he's talking about. He has really good connections. Like when he says something, you can put some credence to it. So he is not one of these people where you need to be worried about, is he just making this up? He's very credible. The first thing he actually mentioned in this article was about Daniss Jenkins, which we'll talk about later in the podcast. But what we're going to talk about first here is what he mentioned about the Pistons potentially in the trade market. I'm going to read this sentence real quick. He says, quote, "Word is that the Pistons, meanwhile, have continued to internally weigh the idea of pursuing wing scorers such as Brooklyn's Michael Porter Jr., or Charlotte's Miles Bridges, but no firm indication has yet emerged that Detroit is actively engaged in those trade targets yet either." So, end quote. Basically, so before we get to the players in general, I wanted to say to that sentence and to what he said there, it hasn't changed. That's basically what I've heard all year with this team, is that they've had conversations. They're going to continue to have conversations about, should we actually do this? And I said, I believe 3 weeks ago on the podcast, that 3 weeks ago, the tone in the front office, I'm told, changed from, we don't need to do anything, we're probably not going to do anything, just whatever, it is what it is, to, okay, we need to reevaluate things. We may still not do anything, but the tone changed to, man, if we do something, we could really go for this. We could really get somewhere with this. Before, I was told the tone of the front office was having a good season, having a great year, don't want to mess with anything, don't want to touch anything, whatever happens this year, cherry on top, fun. I was told around 3 weeks ago that tone changed to not, okay, we have to do something, but it changed to, okay, let's sit down and have some more conversations about this, because if we do something, we could really make something happen this year in the playoffs. We could really make some noise and do something special if we did. Again, not that they for sure went that way and said we're definitely going to do something, but it changed to, we need to reconsider whether we actually should. So that kind of reinforces what I heard a few weeks ago. And it's not shocking to hear them be interested in the report, or interested, I should say, in the player of Michael Porter Jr. I have said for weeks, probably months, that MPJ is by far far away of any of the names you have heard, potentially the Pistons linked to, anyone available. He is easily the best fit, cleanest fit, exactly what this team needs of anyone. He's a good defensive rebounder. Let's just stay away from his shooting for a minute. He's a good defensive rebounder, and that's something that they've needed at the forward position as well. Tobias did a good job this past game, but he's not been a very good defensive rebounder for them this year, and really wasn't a great one last year either. MPJ is a good defensive rebounder. And then offensively, he is arguably the best shooter in the NBA this year. Through his career, this is now the second year he's had that is going to go down historically as one of the greatest shooting seasons we've seen. This is now the second year he's done it. He's been a fantastic shooter throughout his career. He's now showing more offensively as a scorer in Brooklyn than he has at any other point in his career. You're seeing him do things in Brooklyn that you haven't seen him do. I've seen him throw some passing reads, some lob passes coming off of DHOs that you just never would have seen him throw in Denver. Now, I'm not on here trying to act like he's like Steve Nash or anything passing-wise. Like, he's not an incredible playmaker, but he showed more passing chops than he did at any time in Brooklyn or in Denver. He is just by far and away clearly the best fit for this team. He would solve so many of their three-point issues. Him and Duncan Robinson with the volume they put up alone would probably solve the issues themselves. Just them two with how much they get them up and how well they shoot on them. And the type of shots he takes is important as well. The fact that he's able, with just the sliver of space, get up a shot that is 40% for him, forces defense to guard him a different way, which then opens up the floor for everyone else and makes it so much easier for your half-court offense. The fact that he's able to take certain type of shots that are good for him forces the defense to be hugged up on him even more than they would any other player, which forces open space. And when teams don't do that, he's able to make them pay in situations that no one else, there's not many other players in the league that are able to make defenses pay for giving them just this amount of space. Just a very tiny bit of space is enough. As long as he's able to get up into his shot and not feel anybody, it's over. Like, he's hitting 40%. It just changes everything for your half-court offense. It changes how they have to guard your best players. It changes the amount of spacing you get. It changes your three-point shooting. I think he's by far and away the best fit. So hearing that they're internally talking about that, that's something that I'm happy to hear. I hope they very heavily consider it. At this point, I'll let you guys know now, I am willing to trade 2 first-round picks for him. The Pistons are going to have late-round picks. They're going to be a really good team. They're going to have picks in the later 20s. If you got to give up 2 first-round picks for MPJ, I am on board with doing it. I know some may not, but I am on board with doing it because I truly think Pistons get MPJ, they're going to the NBA Finals, and they're going to be Finals contenders for years. He is exactly what this team needs at the 4. And his contract isn't bad, and it's not long-term. Like, I've made the argument for MPJ numerous times in this podcast. I think everyone understands where I'm at with MPJ. I think he's the absolute guy they need to be going after for him or for this team. Now the other player. They said, Mark Stein said that there is some internal conversation about whether Miles Bridges would be a good addition to this team. Let me make this clear right out the gate. I am very much hoping that does not happen. One, let's just get this out the way. The off-the-court stuff is bad. It's just bad. It's not good. And I do not want to cover a player that has that going on or had that going on off the court. I would rather not deal with it. I would rather not be put in that position at all. And I would like it if the Pistons just stayed away. That's one. I would like it if they just stayed away from that. I don't want to engage in all of that. The off-the-court stuff is enough to say stay away from that player. That's one. I just want to get that out the way. Removing, and I understand, I want to make it clear, I am not saying when I say removing the off-court stuff, I am not saying don't care about it. I am saying if you simply even were to remove that from this conversation, I don't know how great of a player he is. I don't know if he's this great fit for the team in general still. Like, even if he didn't have anything going on off the floor, I don't know how good of a player he actually is at this point. Now, he's having a fairly efficient season, I guess. Not overly efficient, but he's been fine. He's a high-volume scorer. He's actually shooting 38% on spot-up 3, so he's not bad, but he's not a very good defender. He's overall shooting 33% on threes, which isn't great. I want to put emphasis on. I really don't feel like he fits the defensive culture of the team. He really doesn't. He's not that good defensively. He needs the ball in his hands more to do what he likes to do, which I don't think they really want from the position, from that 4 position, for someone who's not overly efficient. You don't want to give someone the ball who's not overly efficient, soaking up usage from Cade or Duren. And the spacing, I don't think he really helps the spacing like that. If you look at what he shot from 3 over the last few years, it's not someone who you would consider like this marksman. He's not this great 3-point shooter that is changing the spacing of the floor like an MPJ would, like a Trey Murphy would. He's shot over the last 3 years now, what is it, 33.3% for 3 consecutive years now. So he hasn't been a very good 3-point shooter. I just don't think he's the fit on the court that you should want. I don't think he's a very good defender. And then that's just basketball-wise. You look at the stuff off the court, that has me uninterested off the bat. But again, like I said, if you wanted to just try to have the whole, well, what does he do on the court? I don't even think he's not even a fit on the court for what I think they need. So off the court stuff already makes it a no for me. The on court stuff isn't even like what they need, I feel like. So I really would rather them not go after Miles Bridges. I really hope they don't do that. But Michael Porter Jr., I am completely on board with giving 2 first-round picks for and trying to make that happen. He has been absolutely fantastic for the Brooklyn Nets this year. I think he's exactly what they need. So let me know, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil, how you guys feel about this new report from Mark Stein. But coming up, another part of this report from Mark Stein is that Daniss Jenkins actually has rejected a contract offer by the Detroit Pistons. What does this mean? We'll talk about it coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today with FanDuel. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Now let's talk about Daniss Jenkins, who I have said his situation, I feel like should really give some kind of, part of why I believe the Pistons have to make a deal, or I would prefer them to make a deal, is because they need to clear up the guard room and they need to clear up a spot for Daniss Jenkins. Now, I understand they could just waive Isaac Jones and give Daniss Jenkins his roster spot. Obviously, you could do that. But I feel like by clearing up the guard room, doing a 2-for-1 trade, not only it solves like 3 birds with 1 stone. Like you clear up the guard room, you attack another position, make it a point of strength, and you give Daniss Jenkins an open roster spot. I feel like it's exactly it. You're accomplishing multiple things at once. So that's what I would do. Moving on past that, let's get to the point of the report here. According to Mark Stein, he says sources, 2-way contract standout Daniss Jenkins recently declined the Pistons' offer of a new contract at a minimum salary for the rest of the season and next season. Now, you may hear that and think to yourself, oh no, is he trying to leave? Oh no, this is a problem. As friend of the podcast, Kyle Metz mentioned, he's mentioned this in a few articles he's written, I believe, for Detroit Bad Boys. He's also mentioned this a lot on Twitter as well. He said weeks ago he would expect Daniss Jenkins to not agree to a 2-year minimum contract for the Pistons because it doesn't make sense for him to do so. It doesn't make sense contract. It doesn't make sense financially for him to do so. Because what he can do is that, and what it seems like the most likely scenario is for Daniss Jenkins is he will get converted to a standard contract on a minimum salary for the rest of this year, which will then have him enter the offseason this following year as a restricted free agent for the Detroit Pistons, where he then can get much more on a multi-year deal than just a minimum salary for 2 years. Now, for the argument, I guess, for signing a minimum contract right now for 2 years is you get some sense of stability for a two-way contract guy, an undrafted guy. You get some kind of stability. It's like, okay, for 2 years, I'm getting guaranteed this money. I never even thought I would maybe make it to the NBA. I'm here. Let me just take this now. For the Pistons side, you're getting a scam contract, basically. Like you're getting an impactful player for you in your rotation for pennies on the dollar. That's the whole point of view from the Pistons side. From Jenkins' side, this makes sense for me. It doesn't make sense to take that. I wouldn't advise him to take that. Now, he could. I believe I saw that the Pistons still have their biannual exception this year, so they could sign him to that contract, but I don't expect that to happen. What I expect to happen is he'll get to the offseason, he'll be a restricted free agent. The Pistons have his early bird rights as well, which means he can be signed by the Detroit Pistons for more than the minimum next year. I don't expect him to sign somewhere else. I don't think the Pistons would let him go somewhere else, but it just makes more sense from Jenkins to wait till the offseason, just take the minimum for the rest of this year, which I fully expect the Pistons to do. This is not going to be a situation where he plays 3 more games, which he only has 3 more games left of his 50-game limit on the two-way contract. He's not going to play just 3 games, and then they just sit him, and he doesn't play the rest of the year. They need him. They want him to play. So they will convert him to a standard contract, whether it means that they're trading 2 guys for 1, or if they just release Isaac Jones. One of the 2 will happen. He'll get converted for a minimum the rest of the year. And then in the offseason, he'll be a restricted free agent. The Pistons probably will sign him to a contract I assume to be somewhere between $6 to $10 million is probably what he'll be asking for. And he'll get multiple years at that, and he'll be in a good spot. The Pistons will be in a good spot. They'll sign him using the early bird rights. And now Jenkins turns in a year that he's played really well as a two-way contract guy into a long-term secure contract. That's what I expect to happen. That is what's likely to happen. But that is the update with Daniss Jenkins. And what's available for him this offseason. Now, I mentioned earlier, I believe they had their exception. Mark Stein did confirm, actually, I just read this in the article, that they do have their biannual exception from the offseason still to make a more substantial offer, he says, in his article to Jenkins right now. But it makes more sense, obviously, I think, from both sides to just wait to the offseason, sign for the minimum this year, then wait to the offseason, then make your, whatever negotiation it is, sign him at that point. He could, I'd be interested to see if he actually, I think he will, but I wonder if he actually would even, I wonder if he generates enough interest from another team to where the Pistons actually have to fight to keep him. I wonder if that's the case. I fully expect the Pistons to be able to keep him in the offseason with restricted free agency. A lot of teams really don't fight in restricted free agency because it's just hell to deal with. So that may just be enough for the Pistons to avoid dealing with that in general. But I do wonder how many teams would actually be interested in him, and if they would really force the Pistons' hand to match a contract. I wonder if that actually would happen. But that's the update with Daniss Jenkins. The next update with his whole situation will come whether the Pistons release a player or make a trade. So that's all we've got for now. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you haven't already. It's another great way to support the podcast. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there, and peace out, everybody.